Hello, welcome to my channel. This video is about anxiety, which I know is a hot topic. A lot of people struggle with it, including me. It's something that I've sort of had to address at various times in my life. And so, the paper flew away. So I want to make this video to give some information on it, and how to in a way, address it, and maybe steps to take around that. So the big thing about anxiety, I call it sort of like the slap in the face. By the time that you feel anxiety, it's usually when you haven't listened to all of the symptoms before. And so when the anxiety is cranked up, it's kind of hard to negotiate with yourself. You can know that the story that you're telling yourself is not true, but it's still not going to make it go away because the body's already in a threat response. And really that's what anxiety is. It's like your body perceived a situation or the story that you told yourself. It's interpreting that moment or that thing or the story as a threat. And so therefore it's adding a lot of energy, a lot of mobilizing energy so that you can help figure out and move away from this threat. And so a big part when the anxiety is there, you can try to talk to yourself, but not in a way where you're saying this isn't true. Rather, the conversation with yourself should be one of not adding to the story. So we have the anxiety and then we have the story. And it's like if you keep going with the story, then it propels the anxiety and it kind of goes in circles. So one of the things that you can try is first recognize that you're going into the story and then make a pact with yourself that you can come back to the story later, but for now the story isn't serving you, and letting yourself sort of not go there when you catch your mind, want to go into the loop, be like, it's okay, I'm going to come back to the sensation rather than the story. Typically that can help to dissipate because you're not adding to the fire essentially. The other steps are more kind of before the anxiety happens. Our body's always talking to us. It's just, are we listening to it or not? And if you're from a culture or a family system that values hard work or has good work ethics or any of those things, then you've been taught to push through and to perceive. And those things are great. They're great qualities. It's what makes you find success in life, right? The problem is when you've done that too much, that you haven't listened to yourself, and then you end up with anxiety attacks. And that can look like waking up in the middle of the night and ruminating on a story, just continuously having the anxiety if something doesn't work out, or if you have, work deadlines, and if you don't hear from someone, all of those things. And so a big part of it is sort of regressing in a way where the anxiety is not going to go away right away, but it's starting to listen to see, okay, is going to that fitness class going to help me or not? Is it just going to make me into more of a tired state or not? And typically people that have anxiety, they tend to push through more. And so sometimes it means about doing less and starting to slow down a little bit or allow for the system to go into this more parasympathetic rest, digest. It's not so much so about fixing it all, but the more the system can go from here, anxiety, to kind of lower, more calm, and then going back up, teaching the body to alternate between the states, then it's going to be more easier to come down. But if you're never spending time at the down in this ventral parasympathetic state, then what happens is the system is always stuck here. So any of these things are not going to happen overnight, of course, right? It took this many years, 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years to get to this point of anxiety. So there's got to be a reasonable amount of time to regress that process. The other part is, are you taking care of yourself just from a everyday self-care routine. Like, how's your sleep? Are you getting good sleep? Good enough sleep? Hello. Are you eating well? Are you listening to your hunger level? Are you listening to your thirst level? Are you listening to the little signals that your body gives you when you feel under threat or any of those things? Like, are you able to honor it? And sometimes we still need to push through and do the thing, but the difference is the kind of dialogue in which we have. So if you can recognize that, oh, okay, this situation is making me feel uncomfortable, okay, and then choose to, let's say it's a work meeting and you still have to do it, or you have to take a flight to go somewhere, but at least you're honoring that feeling inside. The problem becomes when you feel the feeling and then you ignore it. You're like, oh, this is just fear, and then you put it away. And so it's not a healthy amount of containment. Good containment is like, okay, I'm sensing some uncomfortable emotions about this. Now is not the time because I have work, or I have this thing, or I have this thing that I need to address. However, I will come back to it later. And then within coming back to it later, then you can address it when you're in a safe enough environment, good enough environment where you can process the emotions that came up. When those things are not processed, the things like it doesn't become about containment. It just becomes about piling and piling and piling and piling. And this is where you have the slap in the face from your anxiety. And it's like, hey, you haven't been listening to me. This is why I'm waking you up in the middle of the night. All of those things, right? So it's really about creating a healthy dialogue with yourself, with your body, with your needs, and then taking it step by step to starting to change that. And so, yeah, thanks for listening. If you have any questions, I'm super passionate about talking about this. I love helping people on this subject, and like helping people move through some dysregulation in their nervous system. So reach out if you want to work together. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.